think of York, they think of a city rich with heritage. The Romans, the Vikings, the Minster, the Council of the North. But as an archaeologist studying contemporary homelessness, working with residents from Arclight allows us to tell another side to the story of this city. One that many people never see.
My name's Jeremy Jones, I'm Chief Executive of Arclight, and I've been with the organisation from the very beginning, from when we were just running a night shelter, and in fact we used to go out on street walks quite a lot down Bowden Park and find rough sleepers there and engage with them there. Since then we've grown and we're now operating from this fully functional facility. We're now focusing far more on projects for our residents, and this was one that just got me. The moment Rachel walked in, I thought this is one for us.
Off the back of a similar project I did in Bristol, I approached Arclight because I wanted to try a different way in. In Bristol I had just worked with people on the street, and coming to York gave me an opportunity to see what it was like by approaching a homeless hostel and asking to work with the residents. I came to see Jeremy and I said I'm a postgraduate archaeology student looking at contemporary homelessness as an archaeologist, and was interested to see whether residents would like to work with me on mapping homelessness in York.
And I just saw it as something that would really suit our residents, really suit Arclight the way that we work with our residents, and one that ultimately would be engaging, educational, fun. Great, just what we love.
There were various discussions behind closed doors to decide how to proceed, and one of the main issues was how do we announce it to the residents. So we thought a presentation where Rachel and Jeremy could address the residents and outline what the nature of the project was and the various things that we could offer them to get involved with, like the mapping exercises, the dig, although that was quite speculative in the early days, and just introduce the residents to this issue of homelessness, culture and heritage.
So I arranged for several homeless colleagues from Bristol to come up to York and do a sort of peer-to-peer handover. So they came up and talked about the project, explained what it would be like. We showed them a video that we'd made, did a short talk about what do I mean by mapping and documenting homeless heritage. And from that, 9 people from Arclight said they'd like to get involved.
The original part of the project was the walks, the mapping around York, which everybody really got quite involved in.
We started mapping our own versions of our trips around York, beer maps where people had slept and fields that people had slept in.
So that involved walking, talking, drawing on maps, recording routes, looking at the way that people experience York. Everyone has a perspective, everyone has a way to see the world, and by walking around York with homeless people, listening to what they say, the names they give places, the things that they do in those places, the way that different places invoke memories of past events or past people, that's mapping.
Come out of Arclight, get up in the morning, pretty much the first thing I think about is getting some cider, go across the gold mine. We'll show you a route that we used to go on. But it's like they don't sell cider there anymore, they don't sell white cider there anymore, so we have to get it across from here, which is a little bit more expensive, so just going to go and do that now. This is a walk me and Dan normally do. Come from the Arclight, come down through Bootham, sit on here. You're not actually allowed to drink on here, but you know, we've got a bottle of cider, so we need to be careful, we might get kicked off. But this is part of a route we'll normally do. We'll go to the gold mine across the road and get a bottle of cider, either a £4 bottle of cider or a £2.10 bottle of cider. Come and sit here for a bit. Then we usually have a walk down further on, which we'll show you in a bit. This is the start of the day usually, and just especially on a day like this, absolutely beautiful, and just reminisce over the past and being signed to record labels and stuff, which I've in the past, and fucking rock and roll lifestyle that I've led or something. I had the opportunity to be something and I've kind of fucked it up.
We used to have a favourite beer shop which we used to visit quite frequently, and then work our way back here and quite often end up sitting on the side of the river drinking beer. Unfortunately the shop closed, so that walk was never did it anymore.
This is where we sit and get pissed through the day and stuff. You're allowed to drink here, which is cool. We never get any hassle here, apart from the little chavs now and again.
Yeah,
come up to going, gives a drink or gives a smoke or something. Part of the reason why I like sitting down here, I like sitting down here with Dan, obviously. We sit and have a good banter and that, but it's close to Scarborough, which is a tie for me because I was born in Scarborough. It's nice to sit down here. You see a lot of activity, you know, a lot of boats going up and down the river. It's the sound of it, and it's the travelling aspect of it and stuff, because I get itchy feet quite a lot. I've always been like a travelling sort of person. I've been pretty much all over this country. I haven't been abroad a lot, which I would like to do a lot more, i.e. get a job or something, sort my life out. But it's the sound of it all, and it's all connected. This railway line's connected to Scarborough and it's connected to London. It's just like, and you can almost hear the voices. We'll sit and come and have a drink. Then after maybe about a bottle of that or something, then the mood will lighten, and then we'll be like rah, 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 at each other and it's like mooning at the boats and stuff.
We've never done that. We have never done that.
Various landmarks that I take for granted sort of took on a different dimension, really, that there was a human story connected to that landmark.
Where I am now, this used to be the old hostel, Pisa. It used to take homeless people off the streets. It was basically a direct access hostel, but it no longer is because it's been knocked down. I first came to Pisa in 1992, and I ended up here because I left care, boarding schools, etc. I had nowhere to live basically. It was originally built in 1987. That's basically when the main homeless problem in York started. It started getting a lot worse around then, so they needed somewhere. It was pretty big inside. All the beds were first floor and second floor upstairs. You had your own privacy in your own place. The P's home's now moved down to the River Foss area. It's a lot better, but I think they should have still left this one built. It was originally knocked down so that the council could build offices, but they ran out of money, so they had to stop that project they were building. But if they'd have left it built, there'd be another place for homelessness, for homeless people in York. A lot of the lads who used to live in here back then are now dead, God bless their souls, but there's a couple who are still around, and they'll be around forever.
Some of the stories were quite day-to-day, so they were about where I find food or where I find shelter or where I can go to get a cup of tea or help. Some of them were quite quirky stories. Some of those stories were sad. They were to do with where someone had died or squats that people had been in and recently been evicted from.
I used to sleep in here years ago until they put this here metal fence up, which stopped us getting in there and under the blinking steps for shelter from the rain and stuff. After they put this up, I just started sleeping down here on the floor. People who used to park the cars right here next to where I used to sleep parked a little bit further out, so otherwise I'd have my arm run over or something. Probably they wouldn't have given a damn. I'm just another homeless tramp. Bloke who was in charge of the car park up here, he said as long as I'm gone by like 8 in the morning, he was okay with it. It was the police, they were just thinking people sleeping around places like this gives York a bad name, which admittedly it might do, but we all need somewhere to sleep. Years ago I'd say there'd have been about 4 or 5 of us. And then when they put this metal fence up, people stopped using it.
They all had slightly different routes through very similar terrain through York. They all had their favourite spots for either shelter or just passing the time of day.
I first came here 3 years ago. I used to sleep on there and then go for my breakfast. when it opened in the morning. It's just basically a soup kitchen sort of thing. You can have as much cereal as you like, as much slices of toast, beans on toast, as much as you like really.
What's that? What's that? I don't know, but there's 5 of them. Dickheads.
I just come for my breakfast and that's it. I'm away. Most of the time I used to sleep here with my cover over me. And then when rain came in, I used to just walk about. Sometimes there was like 3 of us up here. If someone had a duvet, we'd all share the same duvet, you know, to keep warm. It's definitely a good place, because a lot of people use it. Instead of stealing grub from shops, you can come here and get it. They're brilliant people. You can get clothing from here as well. Footwear and t-shirts, jeans. It is a good place.
I think that the residents also hadn't previously thought of the way that they invoke memory, and they hadn't necessarily thought of the fact that homeless people have a very strong oral culture, oral tradition of storytelling.
Before I got into Arclight, I was surf surfing. Didn't have any money or anything. I had to come to places like this and, like, you know, get some food at the end of the day. Man, it's like survival instincts kicked in and stuff. We used to come here and just, you know, get what we could food-wise and stuff. And I spent probably about a year and a half doing that sort of stuff. Never been told off when they've come out and caught me going through the bins, because they throw all this food out that isn't out of date or anything. You know, it's all still in date, or it runs out in a couple of days, but they're still throwing this food out. So I've done this place for quite a while or something, because I've been not starving but hungry.
From 5 different maps, I was able to generate individual maps, but also be able to see where some of those individual maps crossed over, which arguably is homeless culture.
What it's about at the minute is like trying to sort a job out, get myself a job, sort my life out and stuff. Get out of Arclight at some point. Just get away. It's like it frustrates me when I walk through town. I look in the shop window, I see a pair of trainers or something. I can't afford to buy them. You know, it's just like if I had a job, I could stop window shopping and I'd be able to afford to buy stuff. So it's not going to be the be all and end all of my life. But getting a job would be a good thing for me to start off doing it, keep me sober through the day, and I'd get myself back together.
I think it took 3 or 4 weeks to complete the mapping exercise, actually walking through York. And then we had a follow-up session looking at hard copy maps to try and map things out and draw out a few more of the personal stories for the guys involved.
For me, it was very nostalgic because they were the same sort of routes that we used to follow before we even started, seeking out rough sleepers to engage with them and trying to get them into services. And that opened the eyes, I think, of a number of the participants who have really sort of moved on from that sort of life, even though it was in the relatively recent past, which is one of the secrets of the whole project, in that it is real archaeology, as I said before. It's real people who are able to relive something that was in their lifetime and talk to us about it, get involved in it and get intrigued by it.
Their perspective is just as relevant as yours or mine. That's mapping, that's heritage.
The dig was quite a challenge of logistics. It was set up to do over a Monday to Friday, sort of 10 till 4. We advertised it around the service, encouraging people who had been on the mapping exercises to keep involved with the project.
The mapping revealed that there were certain places that everyone I mapped with recognised and identified as a homeless place. One of the places that stuck out most was this site behind the pavilion in the grounds of Bootham Park Hospital. So that's why we excavated there.
I'm very grateful to Bootham Park Hospital, who immediately understood what we were going to be doing, gave us their full support. We were very fortunate in that other people who were in decision-making positions got it.
People were told to wear sturdy boots and dress up warm and wear waterproof clothes, and we set to work. It's day one at the Arclight archaeological dig, and when we arrived this morning we did a surface collection, so we collected everything we could see, and then we set out the trenches, and the residents decided where to put the trenches. So we have trench 1, trench 2, trench 3.
Defined as 1008, wasn't it?
Is that the same?
Oh no, that stuff there, that's 1009.
It was a case of what are the best places to excavate in terms of working out where we're going to get the best results from and where we would kind of get finds that were able to tell a story after the excavation. We asked guys like Rich and Dan where they thought would be the best places to dig.
One we chose because where people would sit, it would be facing the sun.
There was also, to the south side of the pavilion in the middle of the site, there was another area that had a lot of culture, so we put a trench in there to see what was going on, and we put a third one in further off towards the fence because we wanted to get a good sample of the site.
Found some pot.
Found pot?
Yeah, found some pottery.
Loads of pot. That's our first bit.
We found broken bits of glass, bits of pottery, found a pipe.
Well, we've got like lots of bits of glass, as Richard pointed out, and there's a bit more. This bit appears to be from a milk bottle. The green stuff Richard reckons is from a sherry bottle. Then we've got bits of building material. That's pottery, but you think it's actually quite old, so it could be up to Victorian age, is that possible?
Found some more pottery.
Which just found some more pottery, and then obviously you got your modern stuff like a plastic bottle and cigarette papers and stuff like that.
Considering when we started we just marked out the squares and swept the leaves away, then might not look much, but we've done the hard part, the scraping, and we might go a bit more nuclear with the shovels tomorrow and mattocks, so we might get further, and yeah, it's been okay.
Have you had any finds?
A couple of very small bits of pottery, and that's been about it. The rest of it's been sweetie wrappers and polystyrene and bits of old settees.
We dig things stratigraphically, so that means taking it layer by layer, and every time there's a change in the soil, it means there's been a change in the activity that's happened. Using trowels and hand shovels, we took things very carefully and removed any finds and made sure that they were numbered up with the place they'd been in the ground.
You go down one layer at a time, so by doing that you're able to get a time frame for the various finds and build a gradual picture and try and understand exactly how the site was put together. So by excavating it in reverse order, as it were, you get a view of how it was made.
As we came to sort of, what was clearly another layer of soil, the surface layer again was brushed and troweled, and then when we got through that, it was back to more physical methods.
In one trench we've gone down probably, I'd say, about 4 foot now, and we'll probably get down another 2 or 3 feet before the end of the dig. In the other trench over here, the ground is a lot more compact and there's more tree roots in the way, so possibly won't get quite so far in that trench. But yeah, we'll just keep digging until the day before we have to fill it all in. One particular resident, at the beginning of the week when we set out with our wheelbarrows and trowels, came over and said, "You're all mad digging in mud."
They said, "Oh, come and have a look," and then I got intrigued into digging a hole with a trowel, and then it got deeper and deeper, and as the day went on it got interesting. It was hard at first getting used to scraping it back because I'm used to just digging it with a shovel and a spade, but it gets easy.
Just finding things, it makes you more interesting, you want to come back and find more. I thought it wouldn't be boring at first, but got into it and had a laugh. Go through different textures and that. I've probably never dug this far before in my life.
Rich, can you just measure off how much that red layer is down there, how deep it is?
It's about 9.5 centimetres. Been quite amusing because you see the top bit, it's real dark, and then as you get down it's getting lighter and lighter, it's changing colour every time.
It's interesting to observe the interactions between the archaeologists and the residents, and it's been really good, a good vibe, I think, a good atmosphere. It is hard work. It's surprisingly hard work.
The further we got down, the more residents were keen, on time, turning up with boots, ready to work.
The way that it was organised was there was a dig in the morning, then people came back at lunch, and at lunch it was just, oh, you've got to see what we're doing, you've got to see what we found, and the first whole pipe that was found, and the telephone box card that was found, and the flyer for the film, all this sort of stuff was enthusiasm generating.
As we was finding stuff, we had to pass it to Navid and we had to put it in a finds tray. And then it was just getting interesting because we was finding more and more bits, and they were getting older and older and older.
It was remarkable how excited everyone got very, very quickly at finding a best before date on a crisp packet. When, you know, it would normally take hours and days of trawling through books to find the typology of a traditional archaeology find. So I think from that respect it got quite exciting finding everyday rubbish, but actually because it's in context, because it tells a story, it has a huge amount of meaning.
These don't look like anything now, but when they're all cleaned up and you've got 5 or 6 Mars bar wrappers and they're all from like 10 years, you can see the change in the font and what was going on at the time.
And they've gotten smaller as well.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
In the upper surface layers we found a lot of modern material culture related to the homeless use of the site, but as we got further down we found evidence for possibly the previous pavilion that was there and the use of the site before that. The oldest thing we found was a piece of medieval pottery, so that takes the use of the site all the way back to the 1400s.
Most of the stuff we've been finding is sort of this red bricky kind of material. There's loads and loads of that, which suggests there's been like older buildings here in the past and stuff. We've found loads of bits of slate as well, that's from buildings too. Oh, this is quite interesting, just a massive lump of glass. We're not entirely sure what that's from. The only thing that we've really thought of is it's just where someone's been making things out of glass and it's just a waste, something that went a bit wrong, or just the leftovers.
In terms of the finds, we expected to find cans, bottles, evidence of smoking tobacco. That's fairly consistent with most homeless sites I know. But I had expected to find a lot more needles and a lot more drug paraphernalia altogether. In fact, what I've found really interesting is that we have found the wrappers that syringes are supplied in, but we've not found one single needle or needle cap that goes on the top of the needle, which to me shows that people have used heroin here, but they've been a lot more conscientious about getting rid of their needles in a safe way.
What's this you got here, Rich?
I've got a bullet that we think it might be a blank, but it's quite a nice find for a rifle.
One half of the doing this process is digging it, and the other half is making a good record of it. So I'm doing all the recording of what we find and that sort of thing. Knowing that we're going to be getting down to Victorian levels, you kind of expect what to find, but then finding the blank bullet and finding the phone card and things like that, they're a little bit different and interesting, and like sort of what makes it a little bit worthwhile, like finding fun stuff like that.
I just found a massive chunk of clay pipe, but telling by the thickness of it, it's quite old, because normally the later it is, the thinner it gets. So going by the thickness of it, that's quite an old piece of pipe. I'd give that at least 1800s, if not earlier. As you can tell, the different sizes between the two pipes. This is a later one, and that's earlier. Because of the sheer diameter of it, the skills to make a thinner pipe come in a lot later than to make a thicker pipe. Well, clay pipes are like the rollies of their day. It's kind of like easily disposable, but so yeah, they're easily disposable. So you broke it, you just threw it away. So that's why we've got it. Just shows there's been humans here for at least 200 years, probably.
Have a mixture of residents and students to each trench. I mean, I was working with Ray for the first few days, worked with Lisa a bit as well. It helped to get a real understanding of how A, the site worked, and B, how each other worked.
Having students from the Department of Archaeology in York working in the same trench with residents who have been homeless means that we're coming from completely different backgrounds, but we're all looking in the same hole at the same stuff. And none of us know what we're going to find. And when we do find things, the artifacts are the thing that we're all focusing on, not whether or not someone's got a PhD or whether or not that person used to have a drug problem. So by looking at the artifacts and interpreting the artifacts together, not only are we facilitating social inclusion in a real way, but also very often the homeless people are allowing us, the academic archaeologists, to understand what it is that we're finding.
We actually had a bit of banter and everything as we was digging, so it was good because they took us for who we were, not what we would do, not what we were in the hostel or anything like that.
Every little thing they found they were quite interested in, whether it was a shard of pottery or a packet of crisps from the 1980s or sweet wrappers.
It's really good to see people like trying digging for the first time and just really get into grips with all the finds and having a nice time. So yeah, it's been really good.
The residents were very engaged and very interested, and that their engagement and enthusiasm improved during the week and increased, and the confidence and the professionalism increased as well.
It's an awful lot harder than I imagined. Ended each day sort of feeling like quite pleasantly worn out, although by the second day practically all the muscles in my entire body hurt. But, yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, no, working with the people of ArcLight's it's been really good experience. Actually, really enjoyed this week, and yeah, no, hopefully can carry on doing it and do a bit more of it. So, yeah.
I didn't think we'll find anything, to tell you the truth.
Today is the first of 2 find cleaning days. We have got all the finds that we found on the whole excavation bagged up with which trench they're from and which context they came from. So keeping that information with all the stuff that's inside the bags, we're scrubbing everything, and that's giving us an opportunity to look a bit more closely at what we found and also, interestingly, interpret some of those finds.
In the King's Manor was a process of finds washing and finds recording, cleaning everything up so you can have a good look at it. Then there's the essential process of cataloguing all the material in order to be able to make sense of what was actually found.
We had lots and lots of coded, numbered bags with pretty much everything we'd found in, and spent a couple of days just cleaning them off to see what it was we'd actually found.
The finds processing kind of was just a case of trying to clean down the finds so you can interpret them better, which was quite an experience, I think, compared to cleaning human bones from the medieval period. Cleaning crisp packets is a lot harder, actually.
Rachel just asked us to get the contents out of the bag, clean it all, and make sure you put it in the right tray with the right bag find so you can tell which trench it's come from. I was really interested to clean the clay pipes because it was what I had actually found while I'd been on the dig. The first thing that used to smoke out of. I never even heard of the clay pipes before. It's just nice to see how people clean things up.
Cleaning finds is one of those things, no matter what you're cleaning, it's a nice therapeutic thing to do because you can chat about the finds that you've got and explore things about the site, but also you learn a lot about each other when you're doing it. It's a good opportunity to just, talk and get to know people and kind of understand their take on the finds as opposed to yours. Why's it got a hole in it?
That's because people use it to smoke the cannabis, the drugs through it.
So what, you just put the drugs in there and then...
No. You burn a hole,
yeah.
You get your bottle, empty it all out, then you get a cigarette,
yeah.
You get your pipe, make sure you've got the cigarette to the right temperature of your pipe, and you make the hole to the same size as your pipe, but you want that hole to be airtight.
Right.
Basically, you burn a little hole in where you cig, you get your pipe, and then as your thing, you push your pipe through into it, and then you have your pipe sticking out.
Okay.
And then normally you get like elastic band or something,
yeah.
And then put it on the top like that, and you've got a shotty.
That's awesome, because what you've done, it's exactly the same thing, kind of looking at that bottle as when you look at the old Roman stuff over there. You just analyse that, but you know it's correct because you know guys who have done the same thing, rather than when we're doing it with Roman stuff, we haven't a clue because we're just making it up. We've never spoken to any Romans, so that's really quite cool. Getting that information together as a group, you can interpret it as a group, and the interpretations are hugely different to what you would get if it was just one academic sitting alone in his room looking at the results.
I've never been in a university, no, not so ever.
How does it feel being here today with the students?
Feels quite honoured to be here, actually.
We came back together to think of a name for the exhibition, to start to plan when people come to the exhibition, what are they going to experience? How are we going to tell the stories of this site in ways that reflect not only its homeless use, but also its wider use. What is the role of this place? How has this place been used? And how can we tell those stories in interesting and surprising ways?
I think the project is a very positive thing. People might think it is a bit silly or letting homeless people kind of have a play at being an archaeologist, but it's not. They are directly dealing with their heritage in a general way that otherwise they might not be able to do. And that's a very important thing in order to understand who you are and where you come from.
I got a lot of stuff out of it. It's just being outside with a group of people, having a laugh but doing something serious as well. And I think I could probably do another dig without entirely disgracing myself now. If there is another one going at some point, then I'll be signing up for it.
I think this project has highlighted to me that homeless people are as much connected to culture, heritage, history, that what's going on in the city as everybody else.
Its success is largely down to the brilliance that Rachel brought to it all. The enthusiasm, the knowledge, the learning on the hoof I thought was spectacular, which in turn enthused the residents, who in turn enthused other residents, who in turn, out of it all, with the students, realised that they're really achieving something here.
Lots of people I've worked with have reported feeling happier, that they have more self-esteem, that they have developed an interest in archaeology, and that this has helped them in other parts of their lives. And to me, that's an extra brilliant bonus, and actually has generated, for me personally, more of an interest in the way that archaeology can be used therapeutically, as a starting point, a way to begin, as a neutral place in which to start to engage with people who have traditionally had problems.
So out of something right out there, right left field, completely bonkers, totally different, we have got an outcome. And that outcome is that every single person who is involved in that project from our residents feels better about themselves and more confident about themselves, and is able to look back on something and say, I did that.
Looking forward to doing some more digs. I can't wait for showing the stuff off what we found in the shop and that. Can't wait.